Okay, so I think we are ready to kick this off, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar on corporate renewable energy procurement, boosters and barriers. I think we will have a very interesting session, and before we kick off with the agenda, I would like to introduce our two panelists. And this is actually the first time we run a webinar with support from partners and friends. So this is also very exciting for us to try this new approach. And today we have two panelists with us, Pilar Maria Bilbao from Globant, and Doug Miller from Energy Peace Partner. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm looking very much forward to the discussion and the dialogue that we will have. Before we move on to the agenda, I would like to just mention a few points. We will have polls during the webinar, and I hope that you all will join in and give your opinions on the two polls that we will have. And at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A. And just a word of advice, stay tuned all the way through this webinar, because at the end we will summarize some of the key findings and key solutions to the challenge of sourcing renewable energy. After the webinar, you will see that the slides that we will share does not have very many facts on them. So after the webinar, we will distribute a booklet with a more comprehensive content on the topic that we will discuss. So then let's move on to the agenda for today. And we will start with a short introduction, and then Pilar will bring up the topic of how to overcome the pains or the challenges of sourcing renewable energy globally, and also introduce us to a very interesting concept that Globant has, to be kind initiative. Then I will do a short session on credibility and transparency, and also the impact of renewable energy sourcing, before Doug will take us through some of the trends around corporate buyers' impact-related sourcing of renewable energy. Then we will summarize, and we will also then have a Q&A at the end. So today, if we move to the next, yes. So the whole point with this webinar is to actually discuss how corporate energy buyers can source renewable energy without facing the skepticism and the criticism from stakeholders that we know is out there, and also how they can meet the expectations from increased regulatory changes, increased regulatory demand. So this is the whole context of the webinar today. But before we start, let's have a short poll. Move on to the next point. And Pilar, you have been, or Globant has had already a long time experience with sourcing renewable energy for your global activities. And I'm looking very much forward to hear some of your thoughts on the pain points that you have experienced in sourcing renewable energy, and also how you have overcome them. And I hope you also can give us an introduction to the Globant Be Kind initiative.
Sure. Well, thanks, Hans. Thanks for the introduction and for giving us the possibility of participating here in this wonderful panel. As you have already said, well, my name is Pilar Bilbao. I'm part of the Governmental Affairs and Sustainability team at Globant. And for me, it's a pleasure to be here sharing this afternoon with you all. It's a really, really nice space. So, well, let me take some minutes to introduce a little bit about Globant. At Globant, we seek reinvention. We say that we seek reinvention. We are a digitally native company that helps organizations reinvent themselves and unleash their potential. We are right now are more than 27,000 employees and have presence in 30 countries across 5 continents in total. And we work with clients like Google, Disney, Metropolitan Police, among others. This year in particular, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. So it's a wonderful milestone for us. And well, as we were born in Buenos Aires, it was founded by 4 friends. The myth there is that we were born in a bar. So great ideas come from bars too. And since 2014, we are a public listed company. So this also was a huge milestone for Globant. But as you said, Hans, I would like to make a pause here because it was also kind of challenging for us, right? Like not only being a public listed company, it's a wonderful milestone, but also we need to be really, really careful about our reputational risks and how we communicate and how we express all our ESG commitments. So when we turn public, we start to think twice or maybe more every public claim we make, and how we communicate our progress with our main stakeholders in general. And when we talk about stakeholders, we are saying about shareholders, clients, partners, NGOs, and also our own employees, right? So I think here it's like the main challenge that we started like figuring out together with our different ESG strategies. And well, moving to the next slide, I would like to introduce how we are managing like these kind of challenges. And in 2020, it was born Be Kind, our ESG global strategy that promotes corporate sustainable development, and mainly talking about Be Kind to the Planet, that is one of our pillars. Its aim is to first measure our carbon footprint, then reduce our GHG emissions through science-based targets in all scopes. Last year, we communicated our approved science-based targets, and we are really, really proud about it. So, and our scope, at a scope 2 level, we are committed to annually sourcing 100 renewable energy through 2030. And well, here, the core team, Hans, and everybody has helped us sourcing all our operations worldwide. It was really challenging for us too, but also we realized that it was easier with the best alliances, right? And well, finally, after we reduce all our emissions as much as we can, we compensate all our remaining emissions, supporting projects that restore our Earth, like offsetting projects from all around the world, to finally disclose all this climate performance. And when we disclose, as we are a public listed company, we disclose in CDP and our integrated and TCFD reports. They are also public if you would like to surf on it. They're public in our website. And I think here it's the key point, right? Like when we have like this challenge of how we communicate and how we avoid greenwashing, disclosing in these platforms and disclosing in our reports in a transparent way always help us to avoid these challenges. Well, I don't know if Doug or Hans has any question about it, but I'm free to answer here.
Doug, first, do you have any questions, or well, at least I have one, but Doug first, maybe.
I mean, just generally, I mean, how are you navigating this juxtaposition of challenges and opportunities in this space? I mean, where do you see things going? How are you? What's the North Star you're using to go to make sense of all these different challenges and opportunities?
Well, I think when you are saying about our North, it's what's our vision, right? What we are, well, when we started thinking about the strategy, we were thinking also about our stakeholders' expectations. We, as an IT and software industry service, we do not have like high impact on the environment in general, so we're always thinking about them. So what we also, when we try to receive feedback from them in different points, for example, in our materiality analysis assessments, when we have our ESG reports being prepared, and we try to have this in our vision.
I want to ask a question that reverts a little bit back to your history. When you started the sourcing of renewable energy, and you very early said that you had an ambition to do this globally across all the countries where you have activities, and that's a quite long list. Could you give some comments to if you look a couple of years back, 3 or 4 years back, what were the challenges, and how did you actually work to get around them?
Well, some of our challenges were first getting to know in which countries we were like having the biggest consumptions, like getting to know about them, measuring the megawatts per country, and having good control about that in all our operations. And secondly, I think like when we start analyzing different projects with you and like understanding how we can source the renewable energy in every site, well, analyzing each project and understanding what is happening, what is going on in each project, that's something challenging, because sometimes you support a project, but you understand what's going on only when they are publicly disclosing about their performance. If not, it's just like being confident that everything is working okay. So that's something that it's really challenging for us.
So what you're actually saying is that when you say checking every project, you are not just considering renewable energy as a commodity. You are focused on each power plant or each renewable energy project that you source from.
Sure. We always try to support projects that have like co-benefits or different social impact also. So for us, it's really, really interesting, and it's also challenging to understand each project that we support in this way.
Yeah, we have to move on, but just a short comment at the end of your session that adds to what you just said, is the way that you approached your partner in Brazil, where you actually were looking for a partner that were not just producing renewable energy, but had a deeply rooted foundation in sustainable ways of producing renewable energy. So that I think could be a very good example of your approach.
Yes. Sorry, I almost forgot about talking about that, but yeah, it's a perfect example. When we support Atlas in Brazil, we realized that we were supporting not only the purchase of renewable energy, but also different SDG goals. So it's great to have this mix.
By that, we will have a look at thank you so much, Pilar, and we will most certainly come back to some more Q&As on the topic. But first, let's have a look at the replies from the first poll. I've many times said that if you are planning to source renewable energy by buying green certificates or energy attribute certificates, or entering into other ways of documenting the origin of your electricity consumption, and you only do it to tick the box and you pay the price that is asked for the renewable energy documentation, and that's it, then you are not even starting to harvest the real values of your action. And you are probably also not really having any impact on the energy system by just ticking the box. So for me and Bicor, it is important to emphasize what this documentation system actually can provide of clarity and transparency when it comes to your claims to renewable energy. And there are two pain points here that I want to address. One is really about where and when the renewable energy is being produced. So two of the questions that you should look into is really where is the renewable energy produced, meaning the power plant that you are sourcing from, and when is that there has to be a coordination between when the renewable energy is being produced and when you are using electricity. Because if there's no match there, what is really the impact? But the baseline here is transparency. And if we move on to the next slide, I would like to point out that one of the major pain points that we have seen, and as we also saw from the poll, is the possibility to source renewable energy globally. And yes, it is a challenge, but at least it is possible now. Some years back, it was not possible because the tracking mechanism was not in place globally. But now there is a system almost in every country around the world, so that it is possible to get a single credible claim to renewable energy in any country where you have electricity consumption. It is kind of a matrix of solutions in the different countries across the globe, but a tracking system with somewhat similar criteria and quality processes is in place. So this is a huge contribution from what we call the certificate banks or the certificate registries to the credibility of the claims that corporate brands and corporate companies around the world can make. And we are just at the beginning, so it's still early days when it comes to this mechanism. But the point here is to create a system that is solid and providing clarity and transparency so that the buyers of this renewable energy documentation can strongly commit to renewable energy and publicly advocate the reason and the importance of sourcing renewable energy. So this is more like that we're building a bank infrastructure with all the checks and balances you need in order to create the credibility. And we have got quite far, but we still have some pieces left before this is as solid as we treat the money or the financial system as such. If we move on to another topic in the same space, this is related to the quality recommendations from RE100 and CDP. And here you will see that there is a procurement method in the quality criteria called unbundled energy attribute certificates. And the recommendation here is for maximizing impact is to buy long-term agreements, to buy locally, to buy from new projects, and buy in what you call underdeveloped markets when available, and buy from specific renewable technologies. So this is the recommendations. What I want to say here is that these are the recommendations, and this is important because we are not at a stage yet that we can say that there is a specific rule book for how to source renewable energy globally credibly. This is still in the making, and you have to consider this more like a recommendation, best business practice, or a motivation to move forward. If you find it difficult to, for instance, buy from new projects or to buy from a local market, you shouldn't stop considering sourcing renewable energy just because you cannot meet all these criteria. It is more important that you do your best and you continue to improve year by year moving forward. So to use this as a reference point, not as the rule book, is my advice on sourcing renewable energy globally. And then if you're not able to meet all the criteria spot on in this recommendation, Then be transparent about what you do and explain why you do it. And you will get credit for doing your best, and then you can also show improvement over time. Moving on to the next slide, and there are some really good examples out there of renewable energy as a branded ingredient in products and services, and we have just listed some here. And the important part for me here is to say that sourcing renewable energy and sustainability as such, it is not actually a marketing campaign. Because if you start with the marketing, you might end up not having the facts and the documentation to back your claims. So in order to get the full value out of sourcing renewable energy globally, you need to start with the auditable, credible claims, and to get your data in order and get the details in place, and then you can start to build your marketing campaign. So start with the facts, collect the facts, just like Pilar said in her introduction, and then you start to talk about it, because then you can stand solid on your claims instead of having to do the reverse. Okay, so if we move to the next slide. I want to address one point when it comes to impact here, and that is that by sourcing renewable energy, you have the opportunity to do more than just talk about renewable energy sources. Because as you all know, we have areas of the world where there is energy poverty, where there are challenges with climate change, where there are conflicts. And in these areas, they need energy, and they definitely need more renewable energy. So in order to, and this mechanism of sourcing renewable energy can also be used to create impact, not just on renewable energy production as such, but impact that matters on the ground in vulnerable regions and communities. So this next poll will be about the impact of sourcing renewable energy. And I think we are ready to run the second poll. Now I would like to go deeper into the discussion about renewable energy and impact. And Doug, I'd love to hear your thoughts on trends around corporate energy buyers, impact, and how they approach impact when it comes to sourcing renewable energy.
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and dive right in. I mean, just to pull together a couple of things that we've already talked about today. As we know, there's the challenges that companies face in terms of navigating the space of what does impact mean, what does leadership mean, what should I communicate versus what shouldn't I. I know that earlier we talked about concerns over greenwashing. There's also, I would say, equally, if not bigger, concerns at this point too around green hushing and green hesitancy, meaning respectively that companies are not communicating the leadership they're pursuing because of concerns over public critiques, and or companies not moving forward at all because they're overwhelmed by strategy development, or the strategy development takes a long time, or they just want to wait and see how various factors shake out, from regulatory developments to standard developments and so forth. And so in this complex space, and as we just asked on this recent poll, there are ways to navigate your way forward. And from the perspective of Energy Peace Partners and the work we do as a nonprofit to scale access to renewables in the world's most fragile regions through impactful renewables and community investments, we think there are a couple of factors that really are reflected in the poll results here already, in terms of what are the priorities and trends around procurement. On one end, as we know, companies like yourself want to support new renewable energy products and in some way get credit for the support you provide early on, or know that your funding is going to support new projects, that there's interest in looking at value chains, meaning how do you help your suppliers upstream and or your customers downstream who are using your products decarbonize their own purchased electricity associated with your products? How do we then look at the social impacts? How do we look at getting your procurement as closely aligned with the times of day that you're actually consuming, and then looking at optimizing your procurement for the places and times that are still the dirtiest, the least carbon free. And so in navigating all of these challenges and trends, what I think is really exciting, because I know too often folks in this space don't say what are some things you should do or should consider in light of all these challenges. And one thing I can share is that as part of your strategy, one product or market instrument to consider to weave into your broader strategy is called the Peace Renewable Energy Credit, or PREC. So what the PREC is, very simply, is an IREC, an International Renewable Energy Certificate, that has an extra social impact stamp. So a PEACE-REC or PREC gives you all the standard benefits of an IREC, meaning you can say that you bought, for every PREC you have, you can say you bought 1 megawatt hour of carbon-free electricity from that particular country. But with the PREC, essentially there's a process whereby renewable energy developers qualify their projects with EPP, and we, as both an IREC issuer in select countries and then the global PEACE-REC issuer, we make sure that the project is delivering social impact. We provide that stamp that you can then stand behind. And then companies support PEACE-REC projects in one of two scenarios. Either the renewable energy product is already financed, where then the PREC purchases directly help fund the community investment, like public street lighting, like electrifying a school or hospital, like investing in business hubs or productive use hubs, things that deliver a public good or public benefit that shows the value of bringing the renewable mini grid. And so that's scenario one, where you get the IREC benefit, but you can say you're helping support this new community project. Scenario two is you commit to support the new renewable mini grid plus the social impact project together before either are financed. And so then you get the additional public claim that you can make. And so we've had five transactions publicly so far, and there are a couple of more that will be announced soon. And I think what's interesting about a PEACE-REC is that it does check the box for a couple of these different trends, and it could be a valuable part of your strategy, albeit it'll only be a slice of it, because we work in the world's most fragile countries, primarily in sub-Saharan Africa, but roughly 24 countries that are classified as least developed, most climate exposed, and ultimately the most risk or at risk of conflict. And I guess the last thing I'll share is that we know that a lot of what I just said may sound appealing, but of course there might be some skepticism around some of these impact claims. And something we do as a nonprofit to complement our work is invest in what we call our Peace Impacts Research, which really double clicks on looking at the qualitative and quantitative impacts, or the peace-related impacts of our work, where we look at the communities where the renewable mini grids go versus the places that are similar places that do not receive the renewable investments. We look before and then after the projects are invested to see what are the positive contributions to different components of the local community that renewable energy made. And we think that this is also a very valuable component of understanding the value of the PEACE-REC. Yeah, so I'll maybe stop there and see what questions maybe the panelists have, and then we can go move forward.
And it's quite a powerful tool corporate energy buyers around the world actually holds when you think to what they can do with their energy procurement. And to see that through energy procurement, you can initialize or initiate these type of locally very impactful renewable energy projects, that to me is very fascinating. And I have a question, but Pilar, maybe you want to chime in first?
Yeah, I was thinking while you were talking, Doug, maybe is there any kind of impact report or any way that companies can have like this kind of traceability of the project or the progress of the project once you have invested in these PRECs?
Sure. So I'll answer this in a couple of ways. So first and foremost, just like any certificate, what you get at the end of the day is validated data about renewable energy that was generated. And so when you make the transaction, you are paying for the PEACE-REC that's based on validated data. So any commitment you make, the financial component really comes into play in terms of the underlying transaction when you get the PRECs. So I think that's an important point. Another important point is that one way they were looking to minimize the risk to corporates and also for renewable energy advisory firms like Becor is we're in the process of launching what's called the PREC aggregation facility. You think of it like a fund, and that will become the single touch point for most PREC projects, whereby Becor or others that are advisory firms and or corporate buyers individually can engage directly with the fund to transact PRECs, and then through that, then you simply have to have your relationship with the fund and not with each of the individual renewable energy developers that are offering up the PRECs. And then that helps shift the risk away from the buyers toward the fund. And so the fund incorporates all of that risk and absorbs it. And that's part of the pricing of the PREC. The other piece too, on the traceability front, I'm happy to say that probably in the next few days, we're opening up a new traceability tool to show what are the available PRECs for 2023. So from products that have already been financed and are brand new, where your money will help contribute to new social impact investments. And then we show a project or PRECs that are coming down the pike for 2024. And so with this new tool, you'll be able to filter for different countries, other priorities you might have, different types of social impacts you might care more about. And so we'll have that new tool, and that will help show both the countries where we're currently reviewing projects and then the pipeline of PRECs for the current year and the following year.
So people listening in, check out Energy Peace Partner and the PREC initiative, because this is impactful stuff when it comes to your sustainability strategy as such, and especially if you can also combine it with your renewable energy sourcing.
And HP, can I add just one other point? Another resource that we'll be publishing likely next week is we worked with a set of researchers from the from Columbia University this fall, and we worked with them. It was from their sustainable finance division, and we essentially looked at where do PRECs sit in ESG disclosures. So there's a whole bunch of new disclosures from the European Corporate Sustainability Directive to new bills in California, et cetera. We actually went through each of those, and we said, we asked the researchers to say, imagine you are a corporation of category A, B, and C. Figure out which specific sections where you can and should report a PREC, and then offer template responses. And so with this new resource, we'll essentially offer a template of what you can copy and paste to get started for where to report PRECs in these different disclosure regimes.
And we have to check out the poll, so let's move on to that. And we will now have to move on to the summary. Time has gone by very fast here. I will be very short on summarizing, and I see that we are running out of time, but we will stay behind a couple of minutes after the planned end to take questions. But just to summarize, to source renewable energy globally is still quite hard, and it's difficult to create a credible single claim to renewable energy anywhere you have electricity consumption. But maybe one word of advice is to not focus on doing it at perfect from the start. Don't be afraid of trying, but be transparent about what you do, and be transparent about how you want to improve from the first step or the second step or the third step. So continue improving and be transparent about what you do. And then on impact, to summarize, from me, it is really about to know where has the renewable energy been produced, and then we're talking about not just the energy source, but the country and the power plant. When was it produced, meaning that there's a match in time between when you use electricity and when the renewable energy is being produced. And finally, where does your money go? Does the money you pay for this documentation actually end up in the balance sheet of the owner of the renewable energy power plant, or do they disappear on the journey there? That is extremely important in order to be able to show impact on the ground. And with those words, I think we will finalize the webinar as such. We will stay behind a couple of minutes to take questions, and we are ready to take any question from the audience. Those that have to leave us, thank you so much for joining in. We have a couple of questions for those that want to stay behind. We will go through these questions. The first one is for Globant. Can you tell us more how you source your renewable energy for all your use? Is it through GOs only, or do you also install energy production facilities to support your own demand? Let's say by having solar energy to supply your offices, data centers, and etc. So Pilar?
Yes, thank you, Hans. Well, I think this question has like different parts. The first part is like we try to reduce consumption as much as we can. We try to reduce emissions from the origin as much as we can, and that's what takes us to build green buildings and efficient buildings, and care about how we use energy in every site that we have operations. That's the first step. And then once we have like all the consumption from all our sites, we try to support with renewable energy certificates that validate that all our consumption is renewable from renewable sources. But we are also trying to have a mix here, not only from certificates but also from renewables on site. And there last year we have the opening of our building in Tandil, that is a city here in Argentina, that we call Iconic Building, and it's LEED Platinum certificate, and we have solar panels there, and we are really, really glad to say that we are sourcing at least at 10% of all the building with renewable energy created and sourced on site. And we are trying to expand these to other buildings. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult because it depends if you are a tenant or if you are the owner of the building or not. But we are trying to diverse our way of sourcing all around the world as much as we can.
Thank you. We will move on to the next question. And Doug, I think this one is for you. Could you tell us more about, let's say, one specific PREC project which has been already in operation? What has been founded with PREC?
Absolutely. So first, I'll talk about a set of projects where in Goma, DRC, where our work to support new renewable energy projects plus public street lighting. What that has done is provide new and additional clean electricity access alongside public street lighting. And so on one end, of course, we know that providing more electricity generally is beneficial to development and human development. And of course, with clean electricity, then you have all the health and climate benefits as well. And pairing that with street lighting, what that has done is make a positive contribution to improving local safety, both perceived and real. And so we're looking at essentially how does this benefit, for example, women and children who may be going to and from different places once it gets dark out. How does this extra lighting, for example, provide more hours in the day to do your work, to do your schoolwork, to provide better health outcomes, etc. And so those are the types of metrics that we're looking at. And so, that's really exciting. The other projects that we have coming too, that I think are interesting, just to show some diversity as well, is pairing these renewable mini grids with productive use hubs, meaning places where, say, farmers or local business people or potential startups, where they can charge up their devices, their other key things they need to do their work, they can charge up at the renewable mini grid and go forth with their day. And so that's the types of impact investments we make are they have some diversity, and our goal is to offer diversity within each country that we work in. So one of our priorities this year is to expand our pipeline of projects while in parallel reducing the practical decision-making barriers and other barriers for companies like yourself to make transactions to support these projects and bring them forward.
And what is so great about this is that this is projects that are real on the ground operating. This is not about discounting some potential future benefit when it comes to CO2.
Exactly. So I mean, again, the PSREC is an IREC. So when you get the PREC in your, when you receive it from Procure or from someone else, that means the electricity was generated from an existing or from a renewable project that's been built, where that project is brand new.
So
and
it's
then
not a promise for the future, it's here and now.
Yes, so the PREC validates the here and now. Your commitment enables that impact. So by committing before certain parts of the project or all of the project is financed and or built, that has that impact that you can then confirm, and which is part of the value of the PREC label on top of the IREC.
There's one more question here for you, Doug, and that is the range of prices for both IRECs and PREC projects. Of course, cost is an issue, so you have to give us some clarity on that as well.
Absolutely. So PRECs are a premium product. You pay for the impact, and from the perspective of EPP and others in this space, there is, if you buy 10-cent RECs from Texas or Norway, or geos from Norway, of course that's where sometimes some of the criticism comes in. The PREC, first I will mention that PREC volumes and the commitment tends to be low, and so PREC products tend to produce roughly between 200 or 300 megawatt hours per year to roughly 5,000 megawatt hours per year. So the total volume you'd be supporting is relatively low, but then the price is high, so that the price ranges from $30 to $50 US, and so you can come up with some general estimate ranges based on the PREC price versus the PREC volumes, and so, but of course, you don't necessarily have to support all of the megawatt hours for a given project or the PRECs from a given project if it doesn't align with your needs. But of course, if you can support the entire PREC project and that does meet your needs, and that helps activate the project. And the other thing I'll mention is that when we launch the PREC aggregation facility, part of the goal of that is to have a little bit of a price reducer built into that, so that as we grow the supply of PRECs and help reduce some of the costs associated with the financing, that then we can reduce the price closer to where it's more hovering the $30 range.
And on this, there is a possibility. We're talking about large corporates, large global companies that can be engaged in this, and for them to take aside a small part of their electricity consumption and use it for these high impact projects. In the overall cost matrix, it might not have that big of an impact on the cost compared to the impact on the credibility in your claims towards renewable energy and local commitments.
And one last thing I'll mention, I feel like I've given several previews, but EPP is spearheading a new nonprofit-led initiative where more to come soon, but essentially what we'll be calling for is an exclusion to geographic matching of 10% of corporate procurement, if and only if that procurement delivers verified social impacts, meaning first-time electricity access or expanded electricity access to fragile communities like where we work and like where others work. And so that's a dimension of the conversations currently underway with, say, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, with SBTI, et cetera. We are introducing this dimension to the conversation. We think there should be, if a company wants to procure 4% of their procurement without geographic matching because it's more impactful, we think you should get credit for that in your greenhouse gas accounting, is a long story short.
Yeah. Final question, very short. There's a question on, do you need a trader's account at the Norwegian registry for certificates to trade on Bicor? And the answer to that is no. We can handle the retirement and the cancellation on behalf of our corporate clients, actually anywhere in the world. We are over time. Thank you for staying behind for the Q&A session, and thank you for some really good questions as well. And as for now, I would like to thank Pilar. And actually, Pilar, I see behind you the cloud is clearing up, so it seems like it's going to be a nice day, even though the start was quite cloudy. I wish you a really nice day, and thank you for the early start. And the same goes for you, Doug. Thank you so much for joining in and for contributing with this impact examples. And I wish you a really nice day in Washington as well. So until next further notice, thank you so much for participating, and we'll stay tuned with new topics soon.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Hans.
much.
Bye-bye.